wọ́n pé kọ́mọ Yorùbá ronú afárígá, wọ́n pé àjọrò jomitoro ọ̀rọ̀ àti ń kún hùnùhùnù. Àbálọ àbábọ̀ iṣu ègbodò kọ̀kọ̀ ta òṣùpá ráràn mọ́jú ó tútú jẹ́. Ọmọ Yorùbá dí gbòǹgbò ọ̀nà àfàtú àtẹ̀pá orí tó yẹ kó máa dádé ń dóye ìwọ̀fà. Àlárí laṣọ bàbá tí àìhòòhò lọ́mọ Yorùbá fi ń ṣẹ̀ṣọ́ rìn. Bíyàwó ilé òṣèmí ní mí ọ̀rọ̀ òwò kò séwé kò ségbò kò sórí kò sérò. Ẹ wí fún wọn bó ti wù kẹ́ja ṣe bí ará alẹ̀ tó ibú nílé ẹja ọ̀dọ́ ní tàwọn èrù. Ọmọ Yorùbá ni wá lọ́jọ́kọ́jọ́, ọmọ Yorùbá ni wá nígbàkúgbà, Yorùbá ni mí lọ́jọ́kọ́jọ́, Yorùbá ni mí nígbàkígbà. Well, I think I live for the art. So I mean, if the art is extracted away from me, there is nothing left. I'm a full-time performance poet, artist, and narrator. I'm a Yoruba experimental performance poet. Even though I tend to perform occasionally or on blue days in English, I'm a full-time Yoruba performance poet, storyteller, narrator, translator, and everything art. Talking about my background, I grew up in Ijora Badia, a renowned ghetto, a renowned slum, you know, known for violence and every other part of stuffs. But then I grew up here wanting to be different, wanting to build our voice from the trenches. So if we could have Ajegunle to the world, Makoko to the world, Bariga to the world, we should be able to have Ijora to the world. That was the vision. That was the idea right from time. I grew up being the last son to a father who is a traditionalist and, you know, a mother who is a Armenian petty trader. So I schooled here. I schooled here in Ijora also. My alma mater is still here in Ijora. And then, you know, after secondary school, the desire was to further and go into university. This went the wrong way. And the only thing I could do was, okay, focus on another part. And being that we already have a certificate syndrome in Nigeria, I wanted to prove the fact that, okay, we can be several other things without necessarily having to, you know, have those papers or certificate on ground. So what else do I have then? Stories, poems. That was what I've been doing right from childhood. Once I get back from school, I would write, I would, you know, compose poems, write them in notes, short pieces. So I mean, the direction was just there. And gradually the growth, the growth conceptualized, and here I am.
Ọjọ́ òun rèé bí àná tá a sin àmọ̀kẹ́rẹ́ ilé ọkọ. Àfilépọn tí afọ̀nàrókà àwọn ará ọ̀run kínkín gan gbúrò àwọ̀. Mebọ́jọ́ òun rèé bí àná tá a fi jó òun ayọ̀ sí àmọ̀kẹ́rẹ́ ilé ọkọ. Ìyá pé bówó Èdùmàrè kó bọ́kùnrin àbíró. Bàbá ní bówó ṣòkè kó bóbìnrin àbíyè. Ìyá pé kó mórí òun wà lọ kó má ṣe mẹ́wàá lọ. Nítorí orí ní í ṣe ni tá a fi ń dádí owó. Orí ní í ṣe ni tá a fi ń tẹ̀pá lẹ̀kẹ̀ wọjà. Orí náà ní í ṣe ni tá a fi ń lo mọ́sáàjì aṣọ ọba tí ń tanná yanran yanran. Meborí làbá bọ ká tó bó ṣàlálẹ̀ ẹ̀fẹ̀.
Well, I would say this talent is not learned. It is inherited. It is inherited in the sense that my father is an adherent of Ogun. He's an adherent of Ogun. So he's also, he also cast the Ifa oracle, which means automatically he's a diviner. So I grew up in that system naturally, having to grow up watching worship the Ogun deity. And other times we speak Yoruba at home. I mean, Yoruba is not vernacular in this home compared to other homes. I grew up watching a lot of Ajileye movies, Ogunde, Omialale, Lerepa, Imogboye, Lemosho, and the likes. So the influence were there right from time. I mean, when I see Abeni Agbon speak a movie, I see raw poetry, I see full-time poetry. When I see the likes of Lerepa, Imo render in movies, I see poetry. So right from time, that influence has been there. So I grew up wanting to be that. I grew up being that even without knowing. And yes, here I am still continuously chasing that path. And yes, I love it here. A lot of people actually believe in the fact that passion should be different from work. So if you say, for example, have a passion in acting, you shouldn't have the idea of making money from it. But for me, right from time, I've always loved the idea of writing, performing. So right from cradle, I've always envisioned myself to grow up being a poet. Maybe at some times I wanted to be a lawyer, but yes, Nigeria educational system fucked me up, and I think yes, it is better that I'm not a lawyer now. I'm a full-time poet. I'm a full-time writer. Why I choose to be a poet out of every other genres I could have chased is because I feel it is just the most comfortable form of expression for me. I mean, whenever I'm writing poetry, whenever it has to do with poetry, I can so relate. I can express myself totally without saying a lot of things, and yet actually saying a lot of things without saying a lot of things. I love the cryptic idea of poetry, how you can be deep, flexible, and you can play around emotions. And for Yoruba poetry, I feel that when every other person is doing the same thing, and then you are equally doing the same thing, then no one is making sense. When everyone sleeps in the same direction, no one is actually thinking right. So I felt, okay, let me do Yoruba poetry. Let me write in the language of my people. If I want the people at the grassroots to understand what I'm trying to put to them, then I have to speak to them in the language they understand. The regular Yaoniru Yalata out there does not understand English language. If you speak to them in Ijebu Yoruba or Kwara Yoruba, they will relate perfectly. So I mean, why can't we speak to them in the language they understand? The Larewaju Adepoju, the Tubosuns and the likes, the Ajobiewes would only be the one upholding the mantra of Yoruba. We too, we the new generations, we can do a lot with it. It is when the next generation see what we are doing that they too will be spirited, that they will be encouraged to do the same. I have that dream that if every other art form can be sold out at O2 Arena, then yes, it is definitely possible to not even just sell out Yoruba poetry, but sell out Yoruba language as a whole in this international spaces. My dream is to make Yoruba an internationally commercialized language in such a way that if English can be regarded as a lingua franca, then Yoruba too should actually be a lingua franca. I want that value to be very existent, to be very visible to people, to non-foreigners to come around, not only buy our Yoruba Active Act, but also dwell in it. Come and learn our language, sink in the beauty of our language. I want an ordinary man in the village who the only thing he understands is Yoruba language and Yoruba culture to be called a professor, to be revered and to be adored for what he knows. Because I mean, Yoruba in its essence is an entire word, to be very honest.
mọ̀lẹ́bí tí ò wulẹ̀ béèrè ẹni lọ́gbọ̀n ọdún sẹ́yìn arabe tí ajá àsọnù wá wọn á di mọ́gàjí òjijì wọn á sọ ọmọdẹrú ńlé bàbá wọn á sọ ìyàwó dàjèjì nílé ọkọ rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú wọn á máa fọwọ́ ṣòfin lórí ilé onílẹ̀. bọ́kùnrin bá pàdánù ìyàwó wọn á pọ́kùnrin ọkùnrin gbogbo ayé ní í ṣe. bóbìnrin bá pàdánù ọkọ wọn á pẹ́sẹ̀ rẹ̀ ní òṣùwọ̀n tọkọ rẹ̀ fi síwájú rẹ̀ kú wọn á pè é ló ń nọ̀bì wọn á pọ́hùn ló ṣekú pọkọ rẹ̀ wọn á pè é lájẹ́ wọn á pé ṣọkọ rẹ̀ lójú yẹ kó fi dájọ́ wọn á pé kí bàbá òkè ìjágbó wá sùn lópó nítorí obìnrin ò mọ mọ́tọ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ obìnrin ò lè mọ létò bí ò bá sí lọ́dọ̀ ọkùnrin.
I started getting paid for poetry probably 2 years after, 2 years after I started the art, because then and even till now it's always about performing for the exposure, getting the audience. So I could say I paid my dues. I paid my dues. I traveled to Ile-Ife, Abeokuta, several cities without getting a kobo or dime from event host, just to perform, show my art, get the applause. It doesn't matter if I end up sleeping, in the garage or in a friend's house till I come back to Lagos the next day. But yeah, I feel that for every artist, it's all about having a timeline for, okay, this is when I want to pay my dues. These are the periods I want to, perform for free, showcase my art for free. And then afterwards, you can start getting your money. So I mean, it's not like I'm getting paid like big payments, but yeah, I'm getting paid for my art. And then there are some places I decide to perform for free. depending on, okay, the nature of the event or the nature of the person hosting the event. But yes, I started getting paid officially 2 years after getting into the art. Yeah, I've been a recipient of so many awards. I've been a recipient of the youngest Yoruba rap poet. That should be 2017 by Voice of Yoruba Youth. I've also collected awards from Rhymes and Friends, Yoruba Celeb Organization. I've collected so many awards, Writers Hangouts, and so many laurels I can't even really remember the name of the brands or the year I was given. But yeah, the recognitions are still coming in at random events by random individuals. Yeah.
ẹ̀rín kàkàkà là ń gbọ́ lágbàlá alẹ́ ajá jẹ́ kù. bẹ́ẹ̀rin ọ̀hún ṣe ń gòkè náà ni Fọláṣadé ń tara bojú wẹ̀yìn bí olè àjọmọgbé. ó wulẹ̀ jọ pé ẹlẹ́fẹ̀ gidi kan ni ẹni tí ń bá sọ̀rọ̀ lórí ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀. bí ṣe ń fẹ̀yìn kẹ bí ẹni lóyin náà ní tún tajú páwẹ̀yìn bí ẹni ń yọṣu. ológìnní tàjòdè èkúté ilé a máa paramọ́ ni. ìwọ mọ̀ pé ojú iná kọ́ lè wùrà tí ń run ni. ìwọ máa wò ń tiẹ̀ òun àrùn lófòfó níṣẹ́ oní kò jẹ́ dáadáa fọkàn ẹ balẹ̀ iṣẹ́ àṣẹ làlẹ́ yìí gbogbo tó bá ṣe ń lọ màá máa fi tó ẹ létí ṣáà má gbàgbé ibi tá a jọ fọ̀rọ̀ sí àdéhùn ò ní yẹ̀ lọ́dọ̀ tèmi má jẹ́ kó yingin lọ́dọ̀ ẹ̀.
Well, a poem is a spirit. A poem is a spirit, so I don't force it to come. I mean, I've been thinking of writing a poem for the past 2 weeks with the title Banjo, and then suddenly while I was sleeping yesterday, the lines came to my head. The lines came to my head, and I wrote the whole poem in less than 10 minutes. Now, there are some days I want to write a poem, and I spend months. In writing. There are poems I spend years, and I just have drafts, and I keep them in my notes till the lines get to come. So I mean, it is different strokes for different folks. There are some poems that comes in minutes. There are some poems that comes in days. There are some poems that comes in weeks. I'm a man of many influence. I pick inspirations. I pick motivations from different people. So talking about people that influences my art, all the way from Ubat Ogunde to Lere Paimo to the Segun Adefilas to the Tunde Kelanis to the Segun Akinlolus, to the Ayuewebis. There are a whole lot of them. Everyone making a difference, everyone doing something essential with the language, with the culture. I pick influences from them. I pick different things from different people at the same time. Even my contemporaries, the likes of Oriofe Oguntola, and the people within my own space, the people within my own generation, there's always something to pick from someone. And yes, I motivate myself. And most importantly, my father motivates me.
pẹ̀kínpẹ̀kí ohun àójẹ là ń wá kiri ọlọ́jọ́ òní má ṣe jáká pàdé ohun tí yóò jẹ wá. pẹ̀kínpẹ̀kí pẹ̀kí lẹ̀dá ń kó èèmọ̀ igbó kítíkítí báyìí làwọn ọlọ́dẹ ń gbé kó tiwọn. òmùwé a máa kó tiẹ̀ lódò àwọn aroko bọ́dúndé a máa kó tiwọn lẹ́nu obè. díẹ̀ ló kù kí Ṣẹ̀gilọlá jánà mọ́kọ́ ajé ìgboro lẹ́nu lọ́sàn-án ọjọ́ ajé yìí. bóyá orí bàbá rẹ̀ ni kò wulẹ̀ sùn lọ́rùn àbádùn àyà rẹ̀ gan-an láyé ló gbà tó bẹ̀. ẹnìkan kò wulẹ̀ lé sóhun tó kó yọ. ìbá ṣe wípé bàbá awakọ̀ náà ò tètè fọwọ́ roni. òkú Ṣẹ̀gilọlá ni ò bá nà sí títí ìgbàlajà bí ewúrẹ́ tó ṣìrìn relé alápatà. ká má rí ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ènìyàn ní ó wulẹ̀ karú ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ sákùnfà. kò wulẹ̀ tí ìpóṣù kan tí bàbá Ṣẹ̀gilọlá jáde láyé. mebí inú ọ̀fọ̀ òun ìkanra gógó ni gbogbo ilé ọ̀hún wà lásìkò yìí. níbo la wá tún ti ń gbọ́ pé ọmọ kó sẹ́nu ajé ìgboro lọ́nà oko òwá jẹ.
Ṣẹ̀gilọlá Ògìdàn is a story. I'm hoping to have the print publication in few months time from now and hopefully launch it this year. But the whole idea of Ṣẹ̀gilọlá Ògìdàn came to me from a WhatsApp status update. I saw someone wishing his friend who goes by the name Ṣẹ̀gilọlá Ògìdàn a happy birthday. And that was how the name just clicked to me. And I just felt, okay, let me tell a story with this name. I didn't have a plot. I didn't know what I wanted to write. I just have the title, Ṣẹ̀gilọlá Ògìdàn. And gradually the story built up. The main plot or should I say the main storyline of the whole content is about a lady who was, should I say, blind in love. I guess that is relating for the audience to decide. But yeah, Shagilolo Gidon is a Yoruba story series, and it's one of those attempts to bring back Yoruba print publications. I want to bring it back. I want Fagunwa to roll in his grave and feel like, okay, people are still doing these things. People are still telling stories, original stories told in the original language. Yes. I intend to put out my first print novel, my first Yoruba print novel, that is Shagilolo Gidon, before this year ends. Hopefully Sakpa does not come in. So my intention is that to document as much as enough stories and poems in Yoruba language and have it for subsequent generations to read, because I feel like one of the problems we have culturally is documentation problem. We have a lot of renditions, but they are not in print. The next generation cannot get to meet them and read them and understand them. So I want to break that barrier. I want to put out as lot of print publications that can be in the library. I want to have a museum of language, of Yoruba content in days to come. Motolani mi àtàtà òrékè abojú wá mi ẹlẹ́rẹ̀kẹ́ wá ṣe. Ilé àkókò wọn ti ń gbẹ́dọ̀, mo ṣe bí tá a bá débi iṣẹ́, mo ṣe bí ṣíṣe là ń ṣe ni. Motolani mi ọ̀wọ́n apọ́nbípo réèdì gbàrà àlẹ̀kẹ̀. Ibùdó rẹ̀ yóò jọ títí ọlọ́dà kò tiẹ̀ fi ibì kankan jọ gbó dúdú rárá. Obìnrin mi àsìkò jẹ́ ń foróǹbó rẹ̀ panu lóòrọ̀ kí n jẹ ṣìkínú àwo tó ń gọran rẹ̀ bó bá dalẹ̀. Bí ká pọ́n bẹ̀ láti tí ká má mẹ́nu kúrò ń bẹ̀ ní í ṣe mí àmọ́ bá a bá fọ́lé ọba lónìí èmi la fẹ́ dé bá bódọ̀lá. Àwọn tí wọn nìkan gbé ẹ̀yìn yìí ṣé á mọ̀ parọ́ bí wọ́n fi bògún àjọbó di dandan kẹ́bọ̀ fi hàn jàre. Má wàá fojú àfàjòwò mí ọ̀ṣọ́rọ̀ ọmọge òṣùpá lè dìdì falẹ́, aṣọ lè dìdì fọ́mọ ènìyàn, àdẹ olóró mo gbé abẹ́, jẹ́ fàdó olóró tí ń bẹ lábẹ́ mi, sán koríko tí ń bẹ lábẹ́ rẹ̀, fàlàfóló fi òfin àlùgbà ń bẹ lábẹ́ mi, gbà ògbà èyí lílo pò rí nǹkan ha. Alákọ̀rí tí mo gbé ábí òmojúmọ́ra, alákọ̀rí tí mo gbé ilé àná tí ń tọ́ka sákẹ́yìn sí àbúrò ìyàwó, ń pè ọ̀rẹ́ wa ṣáàjogún bá ní bàrá àdínnílé àwọn ará abíni. Alákọ̀rí ananú òkè gbọ̀nà bí òkété tó fẹnu kọ́gi òun gọlọ̀ pátírín kan lè ó kọ̀run ọ̀pátírín kan lè ó kọ̀ fún òpórí gidi tí ń tún abúlé yọ̀wẹ̀rẹ̀ àgbọ̀ ọ̀jẹ̀ ní mí màá máa fọmọ ọ̀ka pèdé orin àjídùn jáde lẹ́nu rẹ̀ tórótó bá a bá dórí pápá àníṣẹ́ bá a bá dórí pápá orin gbàmígbàmí lábẹ́ rí ó máa kọ. Bá a bá parí alẹ́ ẹrẹbẹ tán ọ̀gágun adákẹ́rọ́rọ́ a máa pòjé pìṣ àlùgbà ń bẹ lábẹ́ mi gbàgbà pọ́ùn dà kí náà dáhùn òjàre. My name is Yusuf Alabi Balogun, popularly regarded as Aremo Gemini, and I'm a Yoruba performance poet and storyteller.